Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good, thank you very much. Okay, let's crack on. And yes, let's start off with the football. We got. I don't want to talk about rugby if you don't mind. I'd rather just miss that out completely. I started to get into rugby recently, just prior to the. I watched it last summer actually quite a bit, some of the early summer, and I thought, well, I'll watch the Six Nations because I'm kind of getting into it now, and England are going to do really well apparently, according to all the experts out there and the pundits. So. I'd rather not talk about rugby if you don't mind. It wasn't great again for England. But we'll get on to
we have to talk about two of the games at least. We can try to skim over the England game.
I don't mind. If you want to talk about rugby, that's fine. I'm falling out of love with it very quickly. And also Formula One as well on the way. But let's start with football and a quick 2-minute update on FA Cup matches. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of good, interesting matches that happened. I suppose the one that I was most vested in was the Hollywood tie, which was Wrexham versus Chelsea, and Wrexham gave Chelsea a bit of a scare there.
Yes.
It ended up being 2-4 to Chelsea, but definitely Wrexham were showing that they have the spice to compete at the top level, and it was just a red card that before extra time just kind of brought the game away from Wrexham. But it was an interesting match. Elsewhere, Wolves were hoping to do the double over Liverpool, but unfortunately that wasn't the case for them, and Liverpool progressed pretty safely 3-1 in a win. And even though Wolves took the lead early, they couldn't keep it.
No.
Mansfield Town versus Arsenal, I tuned into this and it was 1-1, and so I was pretty intrigued, but it ended up being 1-2 to Arsenal.
You really, for the neutral out there, you're rooting for Mansfield, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just you love. That's the thing you love about the romance of the FA Cup is you want the people who you don't expect to go forward and give it a go. I mean, one of my favourite memories is Wigan going all the way, and I mean that's to me what the FA Cup is all about. Yeah. And then finally, we had a pretty good draw with Newcastle and Man City, but Man City were just a bit too professional, a bit too decisive for Newcastle. And although they stayed competitive, City's attacking quality is just so vast. So they ended up coming away 3-1.
Yeah, I can't work out if Newcastle are having a good season or not. I don't think they are, all said and done.
It's a bit of a hangover from last season, I think. Certainly that's the case.
Yeah, okay. Right, and so by the way, Derby did get a win at the weekend. I've all mentioned that. And we're I think 6 points off 6th place in the playoffs. So we're there or thereabouts. There's still time. Championship matches back on. Derby playing again on Tuesday. I know other teams as well. I'm not sure when the Premier League returns. I think next week, doesn't it? Next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so look forward to that. Lots to talk about. Okay, let's go on to the rugby then. Six Nations taking place. Let's start off with that England defeat. I mean, nobody saw 3 defeats coming for England today.
No, they were on a 12-match win streak when they came into the Six Nations, and most experts rightly said, this is England's chance to take a Grand Slam home, and although there's loads of rugby banter going around now, everyone did think the kind of same about English rugby coming in, and there's a lot of positivity because we're also going. I think we're 18 months away from a World Cup, so we're coming into the World Cup cycle now. So it's more important as ever to get your young players game time, to make sure to establish depth, to get your starters defined. So. It was a pretty big Six Nations, and there's a phrase I came across that I'm going to steal. It was called the Grand Sham, yes. which is kind of showed how this I guess this Six Nations has turned out for England. The first thing to say is that it was a fantastic match by Italy. We've been so kind to them in the past few weeks, talking about their mentality, their massive victory over Scotland. And really, a bounce of the ball would have given them a draw in Dublin against Ireland and a competitive first half against France. Compared to where they were 5 years ago, this is just a phenomenal showing from Italy. And of course, it's the first time ever that they've beaten the English. So what is going wrong for England? And a lot of people are saying, Borthwick needs to be sacked. And I love the phrase I heard, which was it's the simplest solution to a complicated problem, because the issue with England, I suppose, it could be seen as much more systemic. It could go down into how they're coached and even the players. I mean, sacking Borthwick would really be a massive let off to some of those players, because the discipline at some points in the match was just atrocious, especially from the leaders. I mean, Itoje's red card was just yellow card. Sorry, was just playing bad rugby, and that's something you don't want to see from your leaders. But it was also a 2-point game at that point. I mean, England let Italy back into the game constantly throughout the series, because it was a case of them not wanting to win the game. They're just trying to play not to lose it. And Italian team was, even when they were in winning positions, was so ambitious and so adventurous in what they did. And that was different in the match ultimately.
Yeah, they wanted it more, I think, bottom line, but questions will be asked about the management now and the trainer and the leadership at England. We shall see. It's not unheard of as well to sack Borthwick, because Eddie Jones got sacked 9 months before the World Cup. Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, England mightn't want to, crash around too much and change stuff. No, if they feel, and they have publicly backed Borthwick, but I think in the summer series, that's going to be the big question, because if they lose they're playing the Springboks to Fiji and Argentina. If they lose to Argentina and Fiji, I think Borthwick's gone, and someone else is in for sure. We shall see if he can pull that off and then suddenly revitalise them and revive them somehow. Then he'll, all should be good. But we shall see. You never know. Sport's a funny old game, right? And let's just touch on some of the other matches as well over the weekend.
Well, the one I have to talk about is the Scotland match, because really. They needed to go and win. Ireland needed them to go and win. And no one has been able to stop France so far. But wow, the Scottish came up with a 90-point game. It was 50-40 in the end. And I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The Scottish were it was like they were drowning the French.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute thriller. It shows just how good Scottish rugby can be. It shows that it has a couple of world-class players, and I mean, that opening match is just so unfortunate, because it's putting the Scottish in nearly in an impossible position to be relying on England to beat France in the final round, which that's really not going to happen. But that's just my opinion.
Do England want to win as well? That's the other question now.
Yeah. I mean, we went like 2 weeks ago from the Scottish wanting to batter the English to now the Scottish depending on the English to show up in that France match. And then, of course, the other one was Ireland v Wales. Ireland pulled in a massive stint against England and Twickenham. But the whole, I guess, coverage of it in the media was, it doesn't mean anything if you don't back it up next week. Yeah. And they certainly started off strong, but Wales, I mean, what a test match. They went into the second half, just before they scored a try. And I mean, I think that was just really, it shows the fighting spirit of the Welsh. But as soon as the second half started, I think it was 3 minutes and Ireland scored a try. So they stayed competitive early on, but Ireland certainly finished stronger, and that helped them pull away to have a 27-17 victory. But certainly the Welsh capitalised on the Irish errors, but Ireland was too strong in the end.
Well, looking at the table, we thought France would be there or thereabouts. Scotland second, Ireland third, Italy in fourth, England down in fifth. And only the Welsh are kind of keeping any English pride going at all at the moment. Down in sixth, and obviously Wales such a rugby playing nation, and it's a prime sport. What is the future of Welsh football? That's maybe for another occasion. Rugby, should say, that's for another occasion. Let's move on then to the brand new season kicked off of Formula One. There's been some interesting things coming out. I don't know if you saw the Honda engine rattling away there. Aston Martin not doing very well either. But Mercedes at the top. Also, one of the things to note, I mean, this is my British-centric side coming out now, the amount of British drivers in the top 10 of the grid coming in, I thought was really Lando Norris, of course, and Lewis Hamilton and others. So it's been a great start. I think I enjoy. I've seen a few of the highlights, but it's from all accounts a good start to the season.
Oh, it is, and just to build off your Aston Martin point, I read a fascinating tidbit, which was that between the first practice and the second practice in Australia, both the Aston Martin cars ran for a collective 36 laps, with Alonso saying that he really couldn't do more than 15 in the car. That's how bad the vibrations were. And for anybody who doesn't understand what that means, I mean, the engine is just vibrating so much that everything in the car is just shaking to a point where it's practically unsafe to drive.
Yeah, I used to have a Mark 1 Ford Fiesta like that.
I mean, it's just crazy doing that in like a car that goes 300 per hour as well.
I remember it used to get to 180 miles an hour, start shaking, the whole thing was shaking. That's not good if it's a Formula One car, though.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I mean, they managed to, they both DNF, but they managed to start the race at least, which was something else. To get into the race itself, a lot of drivers have complained. I mean, Max Verstappen being the most vocal about the regulations, how it's, Sergio Perez came out as well, Lando Norris came out. Everyone's complaining really but George Russell, because, I mean, he has the fastest car, but we'll get into that in a second. A lot of drivers are complaining that it's not about racing or skill anymore. It's about management and strategy, which is something that's probably uncomfortable. It takes away your natural instinct and sort of requires you to be more active in thought during the race, have a better strategy team. But it was a dominant finish for Mercedes. They were a 1-2 with Antonelli finishing second, George Russell getting the win. For the last 2 years, the person who wins in Australia is usually deemed or has went on to win the title. Of course, last year at Lando Norris and the years before at Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc finished third for Ferrari. And listen, Ferrari were definitely the closest in speed to Mercedes.
This is a bit of a comeback for Mercedes and Ferrari. I think they can both take a lot out of this weekend, can't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they were swapping positions. Now, ultimately, Mercedes came ahead with about 16 seconds at the end. But during the race, they were very competitive. Max Verstappen as well, worthy note, he climbed from 20th on the grid to 6th, which was really interesting. So there's a new overtake system. The DRS system is gone. And that led to several pretty interesting battles, especially in midfield. We saw the midfield moving around a lot more than we did before. The cars are lighter, they're shorter, they're narrower, which meant that we did see overtaking in parts of the circuit where we've never really seen overtaking before. I think the first 10 minutes of the race was extremely fascinating. And I think there was aspects of it that were probably more enjoyable as a fan, but just all the drivers complaining. I mean, really the next few races are going to be pivotal, because we're going to be seeing these drivers giving this feedback, and it's going to be interesting to see if the FIA actually listen to it, because we did have a lot of reliability issues. Of course, Hadjar went out, Piastri went out, which wasn't just a driver mistake. It was a power unit issue that caused a sudden surge. So when he went over a curb, he spun out, and that was really interesting. So there's still just so much to learn about these new cars, and whether drivers are actually going to adapt to them, or just FIA is going to have to change things.
Interesting to see Aldi making it into the top 10 in 9th position as well. And I know, is it Cadillac as well, as you mentioned there, Perez, earlier on. So there's some new boys on the scene, and Aldi doing very well. They'll take that. I think that's lovely. They're excited by that positioning on 9th. But yeah, I mean, not taking it away from Mercedes, and then I think maybe Ferrari are in the mix. It's going to be. Do you foresee it being a more competitive season than before?
I think it's going to be much more competitive in midfield. Yeah. I think that Ferrari will get a few wins this season, but really, with how powerful that Mercedes is, I really don't predict anyone but George Russell to win the World Drivers' Championship. And I mean, they're both very fast. But one thing I really did enjoy about the race was last year and the years before, you'd have these packs in the midfield that would just, they tighten up, and it would just be, whoever's in front, that's it, But this year it was much, or this race in Australia, it was much more fluid in the midfield. There was much more racing happening then. So I think if you get the kinks like the reliability issues, teetered out. I mean, it could be a pretty interesting midfield this year, but I do think the race leader is pretty tied on. But I'm excited to see how far it can develop, because they certainly do seem close to Mercedes. There's like 15 seconds in there. But I'm interested to see how that develops over the year. And
I think next up, China. I think if I'm right, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
on my list there. Well, Mark, as always, thank you very much. I'm sure you enjoyed your weekend of sport, mate, in watching it all. And Premier League returns next weekend, so we'll have lots to talk about next Monday.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.